Hi, my name is Andrea Diorio, and this is my macro level plan and intervention project. On the agenda today, we will be discussing the population chosen and the rationale, evidence of the population needs, past interventions of what has and has not been successful, intervention and implementation of the project, and evaluation of the intervention and the supported theories. So the population that I chose was transitional age foster youth, and that is youth that are 18 to 24 years old, and around 20,000 youth age out of the foster care system each year. The needs of this population are more housing programs, accessibility to more services, and flexible programs. And the rationale for choosing this population is that I currently work with foster youth ages 13 to 17, and many of them don't have plans for housing or plans for employment. And I work with females, and when talking with them, they're just like, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's because they do not qualify for the programs that is set in place by the government, like independent living. The independent living program requires you to be working and going to school, and either to be getting a GED or to already have your high school diploma. And many of the youth do not qualify and do not meet those requirements. Therefore, they cannot be enrolled in the program. And if they do not have access to safe housing, they can't be part of the program. Where are they supposed to go when they turn 18? Transitional age foster youth are at a higher risk for homelessness, dropping out of school, unemployment, substance use disorder, higher mental health rates, and economic hardships. So this project is really going to focus on how can we serve this transitional age foster youth population, and when they're not meeting the requirements for the traditional programs that are put in place. Evidence that I found was that the most common issues faced among this population were homelessness, involvement with law enforcement, economic hardship, employment and unemployment, education, food insecurity, mental health, and housing. There are some new policies in place that are focused on making it accessible, foster care services accessible from 18 to 21 now, rather than just stopping. And this is something that, could be very successful for transitional age youth. Also, you have to remember the exposure to outside factors like substance use, trafficking, violence, and past trauma that these foster youth have gone through. And that also contributes to this issue of foster youth experiencing homelessness at very high rates. Past interventions have been the independent living program, which I have mentioned, but it does have the strict requirements and guidelines for acceptance. Programs with high flexibility are proven to be successful. And programs focusing on building the youth's independence are also proven to be successful. And some of these programs that I read about were like job training programs where they are teaching the youth skills, but they're also paying the youth during that time. So rather than the youth just, going and learning something and not getting anything out of it, they're teaching them, how to budget essentially, because you're going to start getting a paycheck. You're going to learn how to do this job. And also mentorship programs have yield very high reward because they are creating a positive support system in the youth's life. And that is something that is needed for this transitional age foster youth population. So the macro intervention would be to create and establish a nonprofit organization that specializes in providing services to the transitional age foster youth. So we'd be providing job training, jobs within the organization, assistance with securing housing, substance use programs like NA or AA, and mental health services. We're focusing on establishing an organization that is meeting the youth where they are at. And I think that with working with foster youth now, I'm really seeing that when you meet the youth where they are at, you have a higher chance of making a difference and making change and igniting that change within them. Because you aren't saying, well, I expect you to be here, I expect you to do this. You're saying, how are we doing today? What are we feeling? And you are kind of letting them have some sort of control within learning new skills. So engagement. The stakeholders. So the stakeholders within this program would be transitional age foster youth, local and state government officials, the social workers in the community, therapists that are working with the organization or other therapists in the community that could provide referrals, community members, and community organization members. So my role within this program would be as a mental health practitioner, because ideally I would be, licensed and have my master's degree when establishing this program. And so I would be able to provide mental health services, oversee operations, and be able to really reach out and see where the help is needed within the transitional age population that we are going to be serving. Community tensions would be unable to build connections with local organizations, or their unwillingness to, of the, stereotypes of foster youth. They may not want to build connections, and they may not want to partner with us. And on the other end of that is the opportunities, and we would be able to build strong partnerships with local organizations and businesses. Like I mentioned before, HR 8177 has not been put into effect and passed yet, but it has passed through the floor. Now it's at the Senate. And it would be, providing services from up to 21 years old if you were foster youth. And here in this engagement portion, we'd be really discovering what services are needed most in the community. So is it more housing services? Is it substance use? What is the big ticket thing that is needed right now? In the assessment portion of this, so our target would be to be providing services and programs to the foster youth that decrease homelessness amongst the TAY population. Positive changes would be increasing in TAY accessing resources, decreasing in homelessness among that population. What this population really wants and needs is the assistance with housing, job training, accessing government programs, because if they don't have access to a computer, they don't have a way, to be applying for these things, because everything's online now. Being able to provide them with the means to do so. And also food assistance, because food insecurity is something that is faced amongst that population. So being able to, have a food pantry or something like that. So our intervention strategy will be to establish the organization where TAY can access all of these resources, which is similar to the resources that they would be receiving in foster care, and making it a flexible program, not having it be very cut and dry like how independent living program is. So the intervention, like I said, creating and establishing a nonprofit or organization. And so we'd be providing services like job training, housing assistance, positions at the agency, because like I'd mentioned, that programs where the youth are hired and they are paid for, whatever work they're doing, why not having it be, okay, so you can come and work, 5-hour shifts, and you can help us, stock the food pantry, reorganize this, do that. There are little jobs within the organization that could be sourced out in a way, rather than hiring somebody who's not outside of the organization, hiring somebody who's in the organization, who's an active participant, who has shown themselves to be, trustworthy, capable. And that is something that could be implemented across, all parts of the program, not just in, office duties. But if, we need somebody to spearhead NA, and we have somebody who's 2 years in recovery, they can lead NA. So we'd be connecting with community resources, businesses, other organizations, career development centers to get help with job training, applying for grants and government fundings. And we'd be employing social workers, therapists, and behavioral health professionals, along with, hiring participants, as I'd spoken about before. So I'd be reaching out to the community, host meetings, hand out supplies in the community, because that is one way of passing out, hygiene kits, emergency kits to homeless youth, is one way that we can spread the word about our organization and what we have to offer. So what we would be needing is donations from the community, partnerships with local businesses, and partnerships with other organizations. And that's the same kind of resources that we would be needing, is access through the partnerships and programs that we would be establishing. So the theory that supports this would be the social exchange theory, that people will assist and engage with our organization to yield a high reward. And not because, it's going to benefit them in any way. It may make them feel good, but monetary benefits, I mean, it wouldn't be benefiting them in that sense. But people would just want to help out because, it's a good thing to do. The goals and objectives of this program would be to increase the ability to access services and decrease the rate of homelessness and increase job accessibility. The evaluation of the program will be done to surveys to the participants. And it would be asking questions like, how would you rate the accessibility of services, 1 through 5, of not accessible at all to highly accessible? What programs did you access, and have them circle which ones they did, so we can see what programs are, maybe not being accessed as much, and, pull that funding and put it elsewhere to one program that's being accessed a ton. The sustainability of this program. Programs like this are always needed due to the high amount of children in that child welfare system. As I had mentioned in the beginning of this presentation, over 20,000 youth age out of the foster care system each year. Where are they going? How are we going to help them? That is what this program focuses on. The timeline would be at least 1 to 2 years to start up, because the hiring process of getting everybody, the grants, the funding, getting, clearance through the State Board of California, having DPSS clearance. There's a lot of things that would need to be done and tests that would have to be passed in order to have this program up and running. Some potential challenges that this program could face absolutely would be the inability to establish the partnerships with local businesses and organizations. They could say no. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I am one of those people who will go and ask anybody, because what's the worst they could say is no. And so it doesn't hurt to ask. So that would be, my main goal is to try and set up partnerships with everybody in the community and making it, something where these youth feel supported and they feel welcome. They don't feel like a burden. They feel like they belong, because that is one thing working with foster youth that I've noticed, is that they feel like they don't belong. They're shipped from house to house to house as a kid, and then they turn 18, and then that's it. Where am I supposed to go? And so this project is very near and dear to my heart. And this is something that one day I would like to start up in California, which is where I'm located, and be able to make a difference outside of just this small window of 0 to 17, and helping these youth as they become adults, as they transition out of the system, as they start to learn things on their own, figure out who they are, because it's a scary time. And these youth need to feel supported, and they need that support. And the only way they're going to get it is if there's organizations like this. So I hope that you all enjoyed the presentation, and I look forward to hearing any feedback that you guys may have.